Welcome to the Cocktail Club podcast by Cocktail Kompany. My name is Avinash Kapoli, and today on our podcast, I have a dear friend of mine. His name is Ishrat Kaur. Welcome, Ishrat, Trade Ambassador, Bacardi.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. I've been waiting so long now. So long.
Where do we begin? So, you have been an inspiration, right, to the industry, the community. Yes, women in the so-called male-dominated industry, right? I'm sure it's been an incredible journey for you.
Yeah.
And so take us through that journey. What was your first interaction, or if you have some memories of when was the first time you saw people drinking spirit, or when did you try it for the first time? And what is that fascination to get into the industry? Where did it all kick off?
So, I started my journey back in 2010. So, straight from school, I jumped into the Oberoi School, which is the undergraduate program. It's more like an on-the-job training program that we did. We used to be trained in every department. And I think my first interaction with cocktails was actually then. So, I think it was like 2011.
Okay.
When I was in food and beverage, that I got behind the bar and they taught me how to make a mojito. So my first drink was a mojito.
Okay.
And during the summer break, I went back home and I was like, oh my God, Mom, Dad, I have something cool to show you. And then I made them a lychee mojito.
Okay.
So, I think that was my first interaction. That was the first time I was actually getting introduced to cocktails. Of course, I've seen my parents and other people, like my older friends that I had back in the day, getting introduced to alcohol much before. But I wasn't drinking back then.
Okay.
But that was my first interaction to cocktails.
Okay. So you started off after your schooling, went into Oberoi.
Yeah.
And that was how long? How long was the program?
So this program was 3 years.
Okay.
It was an on-the-job training program. So we would be posted in only one hotel for 3 years. And unfortunately, I was in a city like Agra.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So straight out of Delhi schooling, I went into a city like Agra, which was so difficult because obviously it was a small town. There was literally only one mall, one McDonald's. And we've come from a big city. I've always lived in a city like Delhi or Gurgaon. So that was very difficult to kind of, move away from that lifestyle.
Okay.
So 3 years trained in all departments. Then eventually towards the last year of STEP, we had to apply for OCLD.
Okay.
And that's when a lot of interview rounds were happening, and there was a lot of pressure on us to crack it because we were internal candidates.
Right.
Eventually I did not get through the first time.
Okay.
And I really did think that I would, but I didn't. And so I worked a year. I came back to Gurgaon. I worked a year as a butler, a personal butler, and got to be a personal butler to some very, very influential people. Like Sheryl Sandberg, which was great.
Oh, wow.
I literally saw her so close up. She became a great person to be around because I think she's also been my inspiration in many ways in the industry, because I saw a woman who was in a leadership role.
Right.
And creating an impact in the world. So that was very inspirational to see.
Okay.
And that's when I decided that, doesn't matter if it's a male-dominated industry,
Understood.
just dive in.
And so, but during that time, were there other bartenders who were female bartenders working behind the bar, or did you look at someone as an inspiration to get into it?
No, actually, there were no female bartenders around the time that I wanted to get into it.
Okay.
Of course, there's Shabdi ma'am that was there, but I had very little. Access to her or any other females that were there before my time, of course. But again, I was more a management student. I've never been a trained bartender per se. So my thing was to kind of get into food and beverage and lead it as a manager. So run bars, run restaurants and everything. Getting behind the bar was never the plan.
Okay.
It just happened by chance, and I think I'll speak about it more when we dive deeper.
All right. So you finished that, and then you worked with the Oberoi for a year, and then you moved to Passport Hospitality.
No, so I didn't get through OCLD the first time.
Okay.
I worked for a year, then I applied again, and I got through the second time. And that's when I worked. Then I trained for another 2 years with OCLD.
Okay.
Post that, we got posted into different hotels as managers.
Right.
And I did 3 years with the Oberoi, and that's when I decided hotels are not for me.
Not for you. So where did you work with your
Oberoi Gurgaon.
Oberoi Gurgaon.
So my training has been tried in Agra, Oberoi Udayavilas, tried in Hyderabad, Oberoi Mumbai, and then Oberoi Gurgaon.
So you've kind of seen the culture of cocktails and bartending evolving in different parts of the country. So Hyderabad, then Agra, and everything.
Yeah.
So did that help shaping up your thought process of getting into your advocacy and things like that? Or at that point of time, you're like, no, I need to build a career in F&B. How was it like?
Yeah, so the aim was, of course, like if I went to my parents and then be like, oh my God, I want to become a bartender, they'd probably never allow me. Just for, not because I'm a woman, but because of the fact that they need a solid career out of me first. And then, sure, I can go exploring wherever I want to. Like, just in case that doesn't work out, do I have a backup plan? And also, I was always interested in studying about spirits and wines and everything. So the whole idea was to kind of move into food and beverage, not particularly behind the bar, because food is also something that I'm very interested in getting to know. I'm a person that loves my ingredients. I love to do research about it and like kind of dive deep into it. I've spoken to you about ingredients so many times in the past also.
Yes.
I think that's where my passion lies. So yeah.
So would you say a lot of the exploration what you did was also because of the freedom what your parents gave you to do it? Because I'm sure as a woman, I think it's a taboo in the country that even if you're drinking, it's, super fresh. And you getting behind the bar, making drinks. And I mean, at this point right now, as an advocate, you are advocating people how to actually control alcohol, right?
Responsibly.
I want to deep dive into that and understand as to from Oberoi working in F&B, I'm sure you would have worked in restaurants and bars and everything. And then how is that switch to PCO?
So Rakshay is a dear friend. I've known him through friends I went to school with. So I was introduced to him very early on during my Oberoi days. And he had reached out to me then, but then I wasn't quite ready to leave the bubble that was kind of formed around us. Because when you're in hotels, it is a bubble that you're in, right? You actually don't think anything outside of hotels makes any sense at all. So I was like, I don't know, and it was a bit of a risky move. My parents were not particularly happy about the move that I made. But I was severely unhealthy. I was mentally stressed. I was hitting depression, and I'd put on a ton of weight back then. But also I was losing a ton of weight. So I was very unhealthy. And that's when I realized that I need to make some choices to kind of be happier. And that's when I moved on to Passport Hospitality. I reached out to Rakshay, and he welcomed me with open arms. He's like, yeah, of course, like anything to help you out. I've always wanted you to work with me. And yeah, I think that was the point that changed my career altogether. I think, at least according to me. I don't know if anyone believes that or not, but I think I got exposed to so much more. I realized the kind of hierarchy that we worked in hotels does not really exist in standalone restaurants and bars. Of course, you have your manager, supervisor, you have a GM, and you have the owner. But in hotels, it's much more. So I had a lot more freedom, and I also had a lot of time to kind of understand what happened at a bar.
Right.
Because at PCO, on a Friday, Saturday, it's madness, like madness. So I had no option but to jump in the bar and help the boys out. Even if I didn't remember most of my recipes, I would be like, hey, can you tell me, how to make this cocktail? And I would trouble them all the time. But that's when I learned most of...
So what was your role with
I joined them as general manager for PCO.
And I'm sure a lot of things must be difficult in terms of the operation. Some of them must be easy. But how did you navigate through all of this, coming from a hotel background to a standalone? I've done that. I worked in hotels, and then I think my first job, I was working with the Lalit Group as a management trainee, and then moved to a hotel called Zuri in Goa, and I was managing about 5 bars. And I quit the job and joined a standalone here in Bangalore. And I still remember for the first 2 weeks, I think every night I cried.
Really?
Yeah, because I was managing bars in Zuri. Then I moved to the poolside restaurant. Then they said, Avinash, you have to manage in-room dining and coffee shop as a manager. You want to see how you perform. So I had just finished banquets and moved on. And I was asking for promotion. Then I've done banquets. Now what? The poolside restaurant. Okay, I've done this. Now what?
Yeah.
Okay, manage 24 hours operation. It is, in hotels, right? You come in the morning at 7 o'clock. You check through the buffet, go sit, you get a croissant, a coffee, have that. And then the breakfast services, then you get a paratha and juice and everything. Then go take a break, check the lunch. You know how coffee shops are.
Same.
Finished that and then came to Bangalore, worked in a bar on Level Road called Cloud Bar. My friend who used to work with me at Lalit earlier got me there. It has a bar and there's a staff toilet right behind that. That is the only place where you can sit and eat. And I'm like, I went back home and I was crying, like, what the hell did I do to myself?
Oh my God.
Why did I? And from a manager of coffee shop and in-room dining, joined as a bartender here. Like, no, I made this decision. So it was that difficult for me, right? I mean, how did you kind of move into like what I understand from standalones is that in hotels, apart from taking care of guests and managing the service and hospitality and all of that, for others, you can just call people and things get done. But in standalones, it's not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that? What are the challenges you faced?
I think when I moved from hotels to standalones, now hotels comes with a lot of strict, I don't know, like puts a lot of discipline in you, right?
Yes.
I think my biggest challenge was how to ease that discipline out when you come to standalones, because you're not working with strict rules like you did in hotels anymore. You know, like how your guest is God and all of that. Like that's not the same concept that works in standalone restaurants and bars. You're more casual about it. You like to make friends with your guests. Like that's how you create loyalty for people to come back to you, right?
Yes.
So I think that was very difficult for me to kind of transition, into being a more casual manager rather than being that strict manager that I was always taught to be.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of discipline in my life in general from my school days and when I was a child. Like my dad brought me up and everything. So it worked very well in hotels, but it kind of backfired when I was in standalone. So everyone looked at me as a difficult boss to work with.
Yeah.
But then again, that also comes from the fact that I'm a woman, and it wasn't the easiest to kind of lead a team of men because they would just like shut you down. You know, every time you would try and give.
Is it maybe because the environment in hotels is where you already have women at managerial positions or much above your positions also, but in standalone, you seldom see women at a leadership position or something like that. So they are not used to that environment and all.
Yeah.
How did you kind of navigate that?
See, usually in restaurants and bars, you see women being hostesses most of the time, right?
Correct.
So you wouldn't see as many servers also. Now, of course, times have changed. Leadership roles were very few back then. I think I was one of those women GMs. I think I was the only one back then that was running a bar, and I was a woman. And it was a very big thing, at least for me. Even if I'm sure there must be more women, but at least like from the group that I knew of, I think I was the only woman there, and people were really appreciative of it. But yes, the struggle is real when I try to lead that team of men. But also I've realized that once they understand the knowledge and experience you come from, they get very comfortable with you and they give you that respect. I think it's all about not demanding respect, but actually earning it.
Right.
And that's the approach I kind of took, where I was like, okay, if you think that I'm so difficult, or if you think that a woman shouldn't be leading you, let me become a friend. Right. And that's the approach I took. And eventually, you saw, I mean, what we made of PCO, you know, and of course, PCO has been there for a very long time, but I think PCO saw its best days from the time that I was there with the team, because we were such a good team together.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, in PCO, while you're working, apart from your team as such, I'm sure you interact with a lot of the community, right? Bartenders, managers from other bars. So, how did that help in, shaping up what you are today? How did you build that community? Because you moved from one city to another city now, to Bangalore, but you still are connected with the community. So, how did that help?
Actually, like every who's who came into PCO of Delhi. Every single Tuesday of Delhi. Every single bar person from Delhi came into PCO. It was the perfect, after shift bartenders would come, brand ambassadors would come. So I kind of built my community that way. I made friends with a lot of people. And I realized that a lot more people from the industry side coming in more and more. And I built really strong connections. I made really good friends in the industry. That kind of helped when we were building India Cocktail Week.
Right.
Because that was like my favorite project with Passport Hospitality, where we started off India Cocktail Week together. And my connections that I made, and of course Raksha's connections, like were there very strong, but also like brand ambassadors and bartenders and brand people in general.
Yes.
Those connections really helped to bring them into our project and support us for our first edition of India Cocktail Week. So that was really nice. Eventually COVID hit. And that was probably the worst time that anyone in our industry could have faced.
Yes.
Right? We all were sitting jobless at home, and what are we supposed to do? We had so much time on our hands. So I was just like, how do I kind of make use of all this time? Because in our industry, funnily enough, we cry about how we don't have time.
Correct. Yeah.
And suddenly we had so much time. So I was like, okay, let me figure out how to navigate through all this time that I have now. Because I've complained about not having time to do to pursue my other passions.
Yes.
Let me use this time. That's when dancing happened. And also I started a series called Cocktails in PJs, which was, now that I look back at it, I'm like, cringe. Oh my God, what was I doing back then? I used to make a cocktail every day, and I posted it on Instagram every single day through COVID. I made it into a series of, different local ingredients and different spirits and everything. And I think that kind of helped me get a lot of eyeballs, and a lot of brands started approaching me then.
Okay.
That's when Bacardi approached me.
Okay.
And again, I was in a space where I was enjoying the time that I had off, but I also needed work.
Okay.
So what is the perfect balance? Working in an alcohol company, right? Because it gives you the time, and it also gives you great amount of work. So yeah, that's
so your calling for the passion for dance started during COVID, or was there much before that?
I have actually been a dancer all my life.
Okay.
I danced for about 8 years in school.
Okay.
To a point where it came to a point where I had to make a choice between dancing or hospitality.
Okay.
And my mother
was that like career choice?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know this side.
I was going to join company for the company that I was dancing for, and my mother was like, hell no.
Okay.
There's no way. What if tomorrow you're, you break a leg and, you're just on a wheelchair, then what?
Right.
You have nothing else to fall back upon.
Okay.
So, that's when I decided to get into hospitality, but been a dancer all my life. And eventually in COVID, I was like, now is the time.
Okay.
It's now or never. So I picked up some videos, I started copying them, started doing it at home, created a kind of a studio in my basement at home.
Nice.
That's when I restarted after 11 years.
Oh, so during your entire time at the Oberoi, Passport, and you did not pursue dancing at all?
No, I didn't, and I was really sad about it. I always regretted that decision, but I knew where my mother was coming from, and she obviously had the right intention. But I genuinely wish that I just kept it going. Honestly.
Okay.
That's one big regret of mine.
Okay. But you're right now enjoying your dancing.
Yeah. That was a great time.
So Bacardi approached you for a role in Bangalore, and you moved with Bacardi. And did you know what the job entails?
No.
Because you meet a lot of ambassadors, right?
Yeah.
In Delhi.
I always thought an ambassador.
At that point, who Manu was? Ambassador. Yeah.
Manu was.
Correct.
Manu was you were.
I was, yes.
Yeah.
I was.
You were moving out, and that's why I'm looking for your replacement.
Correct.
And I'm your replacement. I hope I've kept your name. Sign Manu was there, and I think he was also moving out. You both moved out at the same time.
He moved out much before me.
Yeah. So in fact, no, I'm sorry. Manu was the beverage director at PCO when I was the GM there.
Yes.
So he had already moved out of PCO, so they had Hemant there at that time. So I met Hemant. Of course, I knew, I I understood what a brand ambassador's role is, but I thought it's more behind the bar, and it's more guest ships and more making a lot of cocktails. So when Bacardi approached me, I was like, I don't know if I want to do it because I'm not a bartender, and I know that that imposter syndrome creeps in where it's like, you're not a bartender, how can you become a brand ambassador?
Yes.
Because also I come from a management style. I probably don't know skills behind the bar. I probably know very basic stuff. But I took a risk.
Okay.
I dove in, and I think I like to be thrown into the deep end, and that's my form of working now. But I was just like, it's okay, and I got the chance to move cities, which was great because I was kind of getting very saturated when telling because I had seen so much of it.
Yes.
So I was like, let's move to a new city. Let's start fresh. And yeah.
How was Bangalore treating you?
Oh my God. So good. So good.
Okay.
I love it here.
So what does your role kind of entails now in Bacardi? What do you do? And of course, I would like to definitely talk about your work-life balance of dance and advocacy.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So my work is I'm a trade advocate. I'm a trade advocate with Bacardi for the south of India. So I handle markets like Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kerala. Basically all of this. What my everyday looks like is a lot of calls during the day, where we have basically calls with brand teams, sales teams, strategizing, talking about campaigns, talking about promotions, what our plan is going forward. So my role as a brand ambassador or trade ambassador is not only making cocktails. It's a lot of strategy work that we work with. I mean, you know all of this. I'm maybe telling you this for us.
Viewers of the podcast, they should know.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So yeah, I mean, a lot of strategy work with brands. Apart from that, then in the afternoons, I'll leave for trainings. So a lot of brand trainings with bartenders across different bars. So you're basically going from one bar to another, training them on our brands, how basically brand story, how to make cocktails out of it, or how to sell the brand better, giving them those particular USPs to kind of giving them the assets to talk about basically. And then in the evenings, it's mostly bar visits where I would come to a bar like Soka, come meet you, just say hi, hello, or if there's a bar takeover or an event or something like that. So that's what a usual day looks like. We all think that, of course, in the alcohol industry, weekends are very busy. Yes, they are. But my weekdays are equally busy.
Okay.
So it's literally like the whole week you're constantly busy. So yes, there is very little time to give to yourself. But the good thing about Bacardi is that it allows you that time. And I'm sure you will say the same thing about it. Post 6 p.m., they don't bother you, right? They're very clear about the fact that we're a 9 to 6 company. Of course, for us, it's different as ambassadors. But nobody will bother you with meals and, calls and everything post 6 p.m. So that's when I realized I have that window. I have the time. I also do get weekends off where I don't necessarily need to spend all the time working. I can take out some time to myself. And that's when I kind of started dancing.
Okay.
So now, literally, I mean, everyone has seen it on my Instagram as well. Like I spend so much, like 50% of my time dancing and 50% of my time working.
Nice.
And I think it's a win-win because I'm smashing my numbers on one end and I'm taking out time and taking care of my physical and mental health on the other. So.
Right. So when you go visit a lot of bars, as when you advocate the brand, I'm sure you meet a lot of women who are working behind the bar, right? Do they approach you because it is easier for them to come and have a chat with you? What kind of conversations do you have with them? Because I have girls working in the bars which I run as well.
Yeah.
We find it really difficult to encourage them to come and work behind bars. Of course, I know people will still say that it's a male-dominated field, but it isn't actually, right? We want more women to get into the industry, not just be the hostess in the front, but also work on the floor, on the bar, get a management side, leadership roles and all of that. While I was working with Bacardi, I didn't have that many girls who were bartenders messaging saying, sir, what do I do next? But guys like, sir, I'm this, I saw this, what do I do next? Where do I get this? But not probably women in the field. But do you see that changing? How is there something which you have done for that to happen? How is it?
Yeah, I mean, I have mentored a couple of women that worked under me, not only as bartenders but also as servers and in general ops girls. But yeah, when I do these bar visits and I meet all these women, I do check in on them. Like, is everything okay? Is there something that I can help you with or whatever? I've had a lot of personal chats, a lot of women reaching out to me saying, I left my job. Like, is there anything that you can recommend or help me with? Or can I just call you and talk to you? I do see that women are more comfortable talking to women because of multiple reasons and multiple stereotypes out there. Women being termed as loose if they're working in the bar, I think has kind of put that barrier up for a lot of women to not open up to men. But also, if, for example, if I am a woman working behind the bar and I want to have a conversation with a man about maybe how I'm feeling or my emotions and all, then I'm looked down upon as well. Or if I can't, because women are more emotional. That's how we're made, right? So that being weaponized and being used against you, I've seen a lot happening. And it's kind of happened in my career also. But the minute I stopped seeing myself as a victim, the minute I stopped seeing myself as a woman in a male-dominated industry, I think a lot changed for me. And that's what I keep telling women also. I'm like, you know what? Just put a hard shell on. I know it's not easy. Of course, call out all the wrong stuff that's happening. If someone's behaving inappropriately with you, call it out. Talk to your managers or talk to me. I will talk to your managers, right? But like, don't just say yes to everything just because you want to prove a point. Is what I also tell them. So,
okay, Ishrat, so let's understand more about work-life balance, your dance and everything. But how important it is for you to have that work-life balance? How do you do that?
It's I can't even begin to tell you how important it is. I know we all lead very, very busy lives. And of course, most of our work happens at night. And of course, we're around a lot of alcohol, where we're drinking and, it's not having the best effect on our bodies. And we don't even realize the long-term effects to it. I mean, I'm sure there are people that have survived it and are living very healthy lives and all. But I think work-life balance, and I speak to a lot of bartenders about this because they all ask me, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you take out time? I'm like, it's just about making that first move. Like, even if it means instead of 10 o'clock, you'll wake up at 9 o'clock and just work out for 20 minutes before work. Or even if you wake up at 6 before you go, and all of our work starts later, right? So we do have that morning with us. We do have 2-3 hours in the morning that we can probably take out just 20 minutes into working out. I mentioned to you before how I was not mentally or physically healthy when I left the Oberoi group. Even when I was at PCO, I did not have that much time. Of course, I had my weekdays where PCO wasn't that busy. But I realized during COVID only that if I don't make that change now, it'll be too late to do it later. Because, work at PCO was so hectic. We were opening so many new projects. I was working on bar openings also. The importance of it, I cannot stress on enough. I have seen myself transform into a different person altogether. I was a very anxious person, super reactive and everything. But dancing, or even just taking out time to work out, if it's not dancing, just moving a little, that it just gives you that kind of rush in your body, your blood flows, and it just makes you a much happier person. A lot of people will say, okay, if you're depressed, go to a therapist and all of that. Dance has been my therapy, and it has helped me in so many ways that I can't even tell you. Of course, having the community that supports me as well, and I have a massive community that's been very supportive of the fact that I'm a little older than other dancers in the community. Not a little, I'm quite old. That way, but every time I talk about that to them, where I'm like, I'm probably like 8 or 10 years older to you, and I love the way you dance, and they're like, you have no idea the impact that you're creating on the community. And we don't even look at you as someone who's so much older than us. Like, the way you move today, I aspire to be that in 10 years. You give us hope that in 10 years, we can dance like that.
That's incredible.
And that just makes me feel so good. I have seen a lot of women bartenders also kind of get into dancing over the past couple of years after getting inspired by what I put up. Of course, there was always that fear of putting up content that may not be consumed in the right way or may be looked at as many different things. That fear was always there and it's still there till today. Like even when I'm posting something, I'm posting a video of my dance or whatever, I'm so scared about what people will say and maybe not look at it in the right way. But everyone has been super supportive, like surprisingly. I've not ever been told anything apart from, my God, you're so good, or like, you're such an inspiration, how do you do it and all. And a lot of women bartenders I've seen have come out of their shell because of that. They have pursued their passion, whether it's dance, music, whatever it is. I have seen a lot of them come out and that just makes me really happy. But the change it has brought in me as a person, I cannot emphasize enough of how important a work-life balance is.
Wow. Yeah. Great. And also with your work at Bacardi, I'm sure you travel a lot. Within India and outside India as well. I'm sure you meet a lot of women bartenders in different bars across the world. What do you think or what do you see the differences from the bartenders here to there, especially women? And is there a thing or two which bartenders here could learn the way they do things or the way they navigate through the industry as such?
Speaking about women in general and how they are different from outside to how women are in India, I think it has a lot to do with how they've been brought up also, right?
The culture.
The culture in general, because in India, it's always been a taboo for like women and alcohol. Like,
correct.
Both have never gone together. And I think outside the country, that is very different. I don't think it was a taboo, or at least over the past 10 years, it's not been a taboo outside. People are much more open-minded outside, much more welcoming, because they understand the value that women bring to your general bar operations or behind the bar. We bring attention to detail. We bring attention to detail. We bring a lot of things like multitasking. Women are very good at multitasking. So those are the qualities that women bring into the bar, and I've seen a lot of women bartenders outside shine through because of what they're bringing to the table. We also know how to hold very good conversations, because, if it's not a flat conversation, if you're telling me something, I'll go deeper into it and like talk more about like the emotional side of things. As I mentioned before, we are more emotional as beings. So I think that is what is happening outside and now slowly coming into our country as well, where we see so many women bartenders winning awards and leading bars and in general, like bringing the life, to a bar. You see the change as soon as you see a woman working behind a bar or in a bar, you see that change.
Yeah, I mean, Ashi Bhatnagar. Great inspiration.
Ashi, Apurva, Cindy. I mean, Cindy was one of my first women friends in the industry, in fact. Because she was a woman bartender when I was at PCO, she was at Hoops. So we kind of built that connection really quick. And she was such a firecracker. She was just like, I don't give a shit about what people are saying. Like, I'm just going to do my thing, Now
you're also seeing a lot of international women bartenders coming to India for bar takeovers. I think Beckley Franks is coming.
Beckley is coming now. We brought her in for the first edition of India Cocktail Week also. And when she came in, she created havoc. Because her style is very different, right? Her style is very I don't give a shit, right? So she, I don't remember what bar it was in Delhi, but she had a lot of issues because the manager there was not used to seeing a woman that open and that forward and kind of, I don't know, bold.
She's bold, she's loud.
And she's so full of energy, right? The manager there was not used to seeing that. So there was a lot of friction there when we brought her in. And I was personally scared because I was also like, India has not seen a bartender like that. We have very shy women working in our bar scenes. I mean, back then. Now it's different. But I was a bit scared when I brought her in. But she put on a show, and how. She was like, I do not care. This is me. Accept me for who I am and change the way you look at things. And oh my God, that guest shift I will never forget. And I think she inspired a lot of women bartenders in India as well. Yeah.
Great. So what do you think is, I mean, are you planning to see the future for yourself? What do you want to do next? Or is there a plan, or tell us more about it?
I have many plans.
Okay.
But I think more than plans, they're more aspirations and just like thoughts that I want to do going forward. I've often thought about consulting, but then the thought of consulting and the fact that it's not a stabilized salary coming in every month scares me a bit because it is risky. But then I've also thought about opening a bar in like a location like say Pondi, where I just want to open like a 10, 20 seater maximum, something like this, you know. I've always wanted to open a really intimate bar because I feel that I believe in quality over quantity always. And that's one thing when I moved to Bangalore, I saw that people were just creating these massive bars where you would have like 200, 500 seaters, and you're not making enough revenue to kind of get that ROI as well. Right. So I've always wanted to create something very intimate and give my customers quality of drinks, quality of service, just that. Because I have always believed in quality over quantity. And maybe I'll open a bar someday, I don't know, but I'm just winging it for now. Like I'm just taking it as it comes, trying not to take life too seriously. Because time will just go by and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we have great examples of women getting into the business of bars, and like Meenakshi, for example, right? So many of them. I think it is happening outside of our country, but I think now we will start seeing women opening their own bars and operating it. I feel that it is the most fascinating time for our industry right now.
Absolutely. And especially for the women in the industry. I think it's a great time to kind of show what you have and bring yourselves up. And of course, with the help of your mentors and the people that you work with. I mean, opening a bar.
If you want to leave a message or a thought or a spark in the minds of the women who are in the industry with what you have done and through your journey, what do you think that would be?
I think I don't like to give gyan.
Okay.
I'm one person that doesn't like to give gyan. But if there is an advice that I would give to women, would be just take risks. It's okay to take risks. I know we're in a very difficult country. I know it's not the easiest for women to grow or even open a bar or be seen in the front line and all of that. But I think it's definitely worth taking that risk. I think just get into it and just do it. Yeah. Just do it.
Great. I think we are coming to the end.
No, I have a question for you.
Oh, wow. Okay. My podcast and you're asking me my question.
Who's going to ask you the questions then? I mean, my question is that, of course, we've had very similar journeys.
Yes.
And you are my senior and I look up to you a lot, and I've said this to you before as well. Yeah, no, I do. And you are an inspiration. But I want to understand how that change from being an ambassador was for you from, you know, with Bacardi to moving on to opening your own business and now creating this empire that you've created. I want to know how that transition was and do you recommend it?
Yeah, I think, I'm sure you must have seen this Instagram reel which says I had a 9-to-5 job, but I wanted to live a life of my own and I'm working 24 hours. That's exactly what it is. Right? It's tough. I think the mindset shift from employee to entrepreneur is an exciting journey. It's hard.
Yeah.
It is not at all easy. The one thing I still miss working with Bacardi is that 26th of the month SMS that your salary is credited, right?
So cool.
But then once you move to the other side of the ball game, right, you should make sure that the people who work for you should get that message on that day.
Yeah, that's
right. So it's a really big challenge to do it. I would definitely recommend people to get into it. It's a hard journey. It's not at all easy. But if you are thinking of getting into it and saying, okay, let me give it a try and see, but if you want to have a financial stability, then save up some money and then get into it, right? Because a lot of lives start getting dependent on you because you have a vision and you want to bring it to life. But also passing that vision to the people who are working with you is going to be tough, right? You might face challenges which you would never even know that this is something that is going to come up. Like I went to this bar convent Berlin, which happened in Singapore, and Monica Berg did a session about a note on opening a bar. The first slide said, hire a lawyer. I wish I knew that before I got into the business, right? Like, yeah, friends, you know what, man, I want to do something. This job is not happening. When we opened the jamming goat, was what it happened was that we friends got together and why don't we do something? I said, okay, I have experience. I can advise you, maybe put in a little bit of money and things like that. But then only once you got into it, you started realizing that there is so much. But then now, if you ask me, I would have probably not said this when I started out, but I think now I want to work on wealth creation for the people in the industry, not just for us or the company. I think the community itself is underpaid. Right? Bartenders have been paid for a night of bartending, maybe in events also. Bartenders are paid somewhere between 1,200 to 1,400 or sometimes 1,600. A laborer who picks up things and puts in the truck with the meal charges the same. You want an educated bartender, knows everything about spirits, vast knowledge, pours a drink and gives it to you, he needs to get paid more.
Absolutely.
And then if you can bring up that benchmark of salary and build, put that thought in that wealth creation is something which you need to get into. I think that is the thought process right now. Getting more people in. Every month we are getting more people. And always wanted to open a bar of my own, but like working with different people. So what we do is that we work with people who has better skill set than us. So we get to learn from them and we put our skill set into place. They put their skill sets into place and then build something extraordinary.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But definitely recommend people to get into the business. It's tough. It is hard, but it's fun journey.
Yeah, sure.
It keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. And I mean, the wealth creation part is so right. I have been guilty of actually even quoting, say, 1,200, 1,500 for bartenders, not knowing better, right? But now you see the quality of bartenders changing so much. They will have conversations with you. Correct. They will talk to you about your day. They will create something unique that you like.
Yes.
And there's so much more to a bartender than just making drinks. And we see that culture also changing in India now, where people would rather sit at the bar and talk to the bartender than sit on the tables and only talk to servers. You're also seeing bartenders being on the floor.
Yes.
A bartender's bar. Like they're coming on the floor to kind of understand operations and getting to know their guests better from there because they have that knowledge behind the bar. Yes. So yeah, that wealth creation part, like absolutely hats off to you. It's
thank you.
Yeah. Last question.
Yeah.
What is your favorite bar in Bangalore? You cannot name any of your bars.
I don't know if you've heard of this bar called BJP.
No.
It's beer joint pub. It's been there for years. It's in Indranagar in BDA complex. BJP is beer joint pub. Earlier they had a garden. They just serve beer and some local snacks. I don't think many of the bartenders in the city would know about it.
Yeah.
But I've been going to that space since the time I got into the industry. So when I started off in the industry and as a management trainee stipend when I used to work in Lalit Ashok, opened a space called Oko back then. And when I get my salary, I used to take Thursdays as off because every Thursday Hard Rock used to have a rock band playing. And I understood rock music and a lot of it when I lived in Delhi. My first indoor management training program was in Delhi.
Oh, okay.
So I got exposed to rock music there, but although Bangalore was known for rock music, like Purple Haze, P4 and all those places. But then I came back here to work. So first Thursday of the month when I have money, I go to Hard Rock, drink beer and then enjoy the music. The second off, maybe the third off of the month, the speakers, and the last one would be at BJP. Wow. Cheapest beers.
Wow, quite the journey.
Sweet. So yeah, that's one of my favorite spaces.
Nice. I shall check it out.
You should. Thank you very much for joining the podcast. It was lovely having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our viewers will pick up things about work-life balance definitely from this. Get in touch with her if you want to get into dancing. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck.
I had so much fun. Oh, thank you. I don't know what happened. Thanks.